Jesus once compared the self-righteous Pharisees of his day to dishes that are clean on the outside but dirty on the inside. Would you rather eat from a dish that is clean on the outside or dirty on the inside, or one that is clean on the inside and dirty on the outside? I once worked as a colporteur for a summer. A colporteur is somebody who sells Christian literature door to door. It's about as fun as it sounds. This was in Central California in the summer, so it was very hot. It gets well into the hundreds. And people would often offer you bottles of water at the door, even if they didn't buy any literature from you. And I vividly remember one afternoon on a hot day when a lady at the door offered me a bottle of water, and I said, yeah, sure, I'd love one. So she recedes into her home and emerges about a minute later with a bottle that she hands to me. But it wasn't a water bottle. It was a Gatorade bottle that had been refilled with water, which means someone drank from that Gatorade bottle at some point in time, which means someone's lips were on that Gatorade bottle at some point in time. I don't know how well it had been washed. It was a mystery. So I thanked her. I went on my way, and then as soon as I was out of sight, I held up the Gatorade bottle to get a good look at it in the sun, and behold, there must have been about a dozen floaters submerged in that bottle. I don't know if it was pieces of lint or bits of chicken that had washed from the person's tooth or teeth. I don't know what it was, but what I did know is that I am not drinking from that Gatorade bottle. Not in 1,000 years. I would rather die. I could deal with the dirt on the outside, but I draw a line at dirt on the inside. Some righteousness only goes skin deep, but there's unrighteousness in the heart. The kind of goodness that Jesus is looking for emerges from a pure heart, and it works its way out into the outward behavior. 1 Samuel 16:7 says, God sees not as man sees, for man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. We cannot see the hearts of others. We cannot see their motives, as frustrating as that can sometimes be. We cannot see their intentions as much as we very often wish we could. We see the actions, we hear the words, but our knowledge cannot penetrate any deeper than that. I only know the motives of a single person in this world, myself. And that's why when we hurt someone with our words or with our actions, we often say things like this: I didn't mean it that way. If you only knew my heart. Well, that wasn't my intention. We judge ourselves by our inner motives, and we judge everybody else by their outward behavior. And it is tempting to judge a person who is bad-mannered, rude, and discourteous. But we don't know their upbringing. We don't know their heredity. We don't know the trauma of their past. It may be a greater act of sacrifice for a person who was abused since birth and lived their whole life in cruelty to show one little act of kindness than it is for you or I to lay down our lives for a friend. And this is why Paul said, therefore, do not go on passing judgment before the time, but wait until the Lord comes, who will both bring to light the hidden things of darkness and disclose the motives of men's hearts. The motives of the heart are hidden from us, but they are not hidden from God. There's nothing hidden. There's nothing secret from him. Is that relieving to know, or is it a little bit terrifying to know? Or maybe a little bit of both. On the one hand, it is a relief to know that the judge of all the world will not misunderstand us, will not misinterpret us, or unfairly judge us. God sees deep into our souls. He not only knows what you did, but he knows what you intended to do. But on the other hand, it's terrifying for the same reason. If your heart is not right before God, then you cannot mask it with the veneer of obedience. He sees beyond what everybody else sees. He knows whose glory you really seek. So then, how do you change your heart, your motives, your intentions? How can you stand with a pure heart before God? How can you even go about trying to do such a thing? It seems impossible. Well, newsflash, you don't do it. You don't because you can't. It is impossible to do. You cannot change your motives, your desires, your intentions. You may have heard of the ancient and medieval practice of alchemy. It's a very strange mystical practice. Alchemy was the attempt to convert base metals into gold. Wouldn't that be nice? Gold probably wouldn't be worth too much if you could do it, but they tried. Some alchemists even thought and still think that you could perfect human nature by taking some kind of magic elixir or subjecting oneself to various mystical practices. You must transform yourself, they would say. You must awaken yourself to the divine presence, they would say. You must change your fundamental nature. But alchemy didn't work. It's a failed enterprise. It's considered more a superstition than anything else. It turns out that you cannot change a thing's fundamental nature. You are as powerless to change your heart as you are your height. And trust me, if you could change your height, I'd probably be the first in line. At least get a couple inches. When you sincerely look deep within yourself, into the recesses of your soul, you're not going to find a solution there. You're going to find a problem. And it's a big problem. The heart of man is cold, it is dark, it is unloving. You'll find selfishness, pride, lust, anger, jealousy, envy. You cannot save yourself because it is your very self that needs to be saved. You cannot pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. Changing the motives and the desires of the heart lies outside the realm of your natural capacity. Jeremiah, the prophet, said it well when he said, "The heart is deceitful above all things and incurably sick." Deceitful and incurable. The heart doesn't need to be healed. It needs to be renewed. It needs to be transplanted. And sure enough, that is the biblical answer. Metaphorical heart transplant. I'm going to put the last verse up for the day. God says, and he promises, this is the new covenant promise, instantiated in the ministry of Jesus. "I will give you a new heart, and a new spirit I will put within you. And I will remove the heart of stone from your flesh and give you a heart of flesh." I will give, I will put, I will remove. This is God's work, not your work. You can only let God, you can permit him to do this work in you because he will not do it unless you allow him. God can change a thing's fundamental nature, and he will to those who let him. God says, "I am the Lord who sanctifies you." God will do what you cannot do for yourself. He will give you a new heart, new motives, new desires. He will yank out that heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh. And the change may be imperceptible as you go through your life, and you may not notice it, but it does in fact and will in fact happen. That is a promise of God. All you can do is pray that God regenerates you with the power of his Spirit to make you into the person that he desires you to be, a man or a woman after his own heart. You may still be a little dirty on the outside, but he'll make you clean on the inside. Take my life and let it be consecrated, Lord, to thee. Jesus is what's right about the world, and with Christ in you, you can be what's right about the world as well.